Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing? It's an odd time for me to be here. This isn't usually when I'm doing streams. I'm usually a morning time for the US people. I live here in Korea, and so it's 11:04 a.m. for me, and I'm usually at work or enjoying my weekend. But this is kind of an interesting situation we've got going on here with some events. Some events surrounding Twitter, some more shenanigans surrounding Balenciaga, and that's kind of the things we wanted to talk about today. We got a couple of guests lined up whenever they show up. I know that Farron from Farron Balanced, she's going to be about 30 minutes late. Well, she's not going to be late. She's going to be here 30 minutes after the show starts. Why? Because I'm kind of an idiot. When I was deciding to do this, it was yesterday my time, but it was still today U.S. time. And I said tomorrow at 9 p.m. And for me, I'm thinking tomorrow Korea time, which would be 9 p.m. Eastern time. Forgot about that pesky little international dateline thing. So when I was saying tomorrow, I was thinking tomorrow for me. And obviously when I said tomorrow, Farron thought tomorrow her time. So I led her to believe this was happening 24 hours from now. She seemed to be a little bit surprised when I said see you in an hour. So she's graciously not telling me to go intercourse myself. Because I was such an idiot with the time frame. She'll be here in about 30 minutes. And Ariadna Jacob, Ari said she would be on here. Hopefully she'll be showing up here a little bit soon. She's doing some of her things, and for those of you that don't know her, we'll introduce her when she shows up. But we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about today, insofar as Twitter and Balenciaga are concerned. I was assuming that everyone knew what was up with both of those cases. Oh, well, okay. Farron has just now said it might be about an hour from now because she's dealing with apartment issues. Well, somebody will get here whenever they get here. If not, hey, it's just me. And I'll just pretend I was clickbaiting people with the with the guests. Hopefully Ari will be here soon. We'll have to see how that goes. But in the meantime, I was surprised by the number of people that weren't aware what was going on. I was talking with some people last night while we were out. Had a little bit of hair of the dog to take off the edge off of my Friday stream. But we were out watching some World Cup games in the middle of the night, and I was surprised people were like, "Well, what's up with Twitter? What's up with this Twitter thing?" And of course, most of the guys said, "Who or what is a Balenciaga?" which is the correct answer if a male is ever asked about anything to do with fashion. So I thought, and what I was saying with even the people that did know the Twitter deal, know what was going on with the Twitter files, the Twitter dumps, and whatnot. They were just going off of what they had heard from other people, or what they had read in the news, or some of them had seen a couple of YouTube things about it. But no one had actually read through the Twitter dump, the actual Twitter files, Twitter dump on Twitter. And I thought that's how we would start this, and then we kind of get some commentary on it. And to add to that, just recently, I mean, as early as a very, very short time ago, Elon Musk was doing a live Q&A session with media and other people that was being broadcast on Twitter. I got part of that. I didn't see it all, but Ari, she listened to the whole thing, so she'll be our voice, our insight into what all was discussed at the online Twitter session earlier today. Let's start out here by welcoming everybody to chat. The Legal Vices Vice Squad. They're the best chat on the internet. You guys rock. And if you're not part of the Legal Vices Vice Squad, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love to have your subscription. We talk about legal things. We talk about legal adjacent things. Every Monday we do a Maritime Monday show because that's my main area of expertise is maritime law. We do an O.J. Simpson trial review every Thursday where we look at the masterful cross-examination by some of the greatest lawyers to walk the face of the earth, Barry Scheck, F. Lee Bailey. And we look at how it's possible to, in an apparent slam dunk case, put reasonable doubt in the minds of jurors. We also do other things. We're streaming a trial now from Texas about a Texas border agent who turned serial killer and deleted 4 women of negotiable affections. He confessed to the police. He led them to a body. He executed them with a bullet to the back of the head using his service weapon that was loaded with his service weapon-related government-issued rounds. He left his shell casings behind, and he still pled not guilty. And this trial is turning out to be a majorly painful experience to watch. But we're watching it. So those are some of the things we do here. If you like it, please subscribe. And even if you don't want to subscribe to the channel, do me the favor of liking this video because that's what YouTube likes, and I like it, and it's I like to like the likes. YouTube really looks at the likes. So that's all. I don't want to grift too much because people hate it when I grift too much for likes, but the likes really, really do help. I don't think about liking people's videos ever, even when I'm watching them, even as a creator, and they say like the video. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I should probably do that. So that's what I'm doing to you, just reminding you to please go down there and hit that like button as we go along. Super chats. We've got some super chats to clear here before we get into the main part of the story. Super chats are not required. I know some creators won't talk to you unless you do a super chat or there's minimum amounts. None of that here. Any super chat is guaranteed to get read, is guaranteed to get addressed. And to those of you that are, I just don't expect super chats. I don't demand super chats. I just gratefully accept them. I try to pay as much attention as I can to the chats. We still try to address some of the issues that are being brought up in chats without super chats, but super chats just come up in bright colors and it represents your support and a financial donation to me. So I guarantee that those get read. And we started off with XCOMer Triple Z gifting 5 Legal Vices memberships to people. So if you were one of the 5 lucky people that got a gifted membership from XCOMer Triple Z, please do him the favor and do him the solid of thanking him for being so generous for donating the memberships. That is how we roll here with these gifts. So, wow. Where do we start with the super chat? Let me see here. Let me bring up the super chat sheet because I'm fully embracing technology these days. I know that sounds silly, but I am. All right. First super chat of the day goes to Eva Torres. Jeff, if you were capable of intercoursing yourself, I would need to move to Utah because the Mormons are gifted. Well, I am no longer in Utah. I am in Korea. And I guess I'm still kind of on church record somewhere. XHomer Triple Z. Jeff, in your drunken stupor, you made my name Blue. Please correct this mistake. Oh yes, welcome to XHomer Triple Z, our newest mod. I gifted him with his modship because he's such a great guy, such a supporter, and because everybody in chat was begging me to do so. So I'm sorry, you're now a mod because everyone demanded it. Hunch the Dirty Roofer, thank you so much for your super chat. While the whole Twitter story is a nice barstool, the bigger story is Biden and Congress thinking that the railroad workers are going to abide by this deal being forced upon them. Different topic for a different day, but that'll be an interesting thing to watch. And as far as consumers go in the U.S., you better hope they really do come to an agreement on something because it could get ugly. IWD, gotta love all the truth coming out. First, the Queen's favorite fashion company outs itself, and then we get Utopia Mouse Project, style behavior, engineering attempts by Twitter. My. Stephanie Tam says he doesn't care about super chats. He'll even read this. Exactly, because it's a super chat. And Stephanie Tam, XCOMer Triple says, haha, sucker, you're a mod, I win. Careful, Steph, you might be our next mod. Careful, Stephanie. All right, that's out of the way. It took a little longer than I expected, but again, just that's me because I like you guys. Alrighty, let's. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start out with this. Out of the blue, we had this major Twitter drop that gets into some really interesting things, and we'll talk about those things here as we go along. The chat just started with Mark Tybee saying the Twitter files, #1. That's the ominous start here. The Twitter files. What you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. And part 2 of this, we're looking at part 1 here now. Part 2 of this could drop at any time, including whilst we're doing this live stream now. We'll have to see. There's no time frame for the second drop, but Elon yesterday said today, so we'll have to. Elon, like we're on a first name basis. Elon and I. So what you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. The Twitter files tell an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It is a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of the control of its designer. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did Twitter outgrow what its original intentions were? I mean, it's clear that Facebook did. You get something like Facebook, which was set up just as a bunch of college nerds to send messages to each other and to talk about chicks, and then it's grown into this monster it is today. But Twitter's always been kind of basic, and I don't know, I don't feel like it grew out of the control of its designer. I just don't think proper controls were put in place at the time to ensure that it carried out the function that it was designed to carry out. Eva Torres says, no, all the social media speaks to our vanity. I'm not surprised it mutated. Outgrown, no. Evolved into something more powerful. Exactly. Griffin's Library, I think, kind of hits it. That's kind of what I was trying to say. I don't think it's outgrown the control of its designer. It just mutated and migrated and evolved into something more than they thought because the controls weren't in place. Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. I don't know if that's particularly true, but it was the easiest medium for doing that. Everything in the 120, 140 characters, whatever the hell it is or less, get it out. And of course, it always devolves into the what you had for breakfast, what color shoes you're wearing, and then it also has this social influencer sort of thing where the news comes in and it gets spread out. But I think it's also the thing that I really hate, and it's what I hate more about modern news, the modern news outlets and reporting, is not so much what I hate about Twitter. What I hate is it's enabled people to be lazy. It's encouraged laziness in journalism. How many articles, how many news stories do you read these days where half of it is just copied paste reactions from Twitter? When journalists, when news people begin getting their news and getting their comments and their sources from Twitter, that I think is a huge failure on the part of media. You don't do your fact checking, you don't do real questions, you don't actually ask the questions yourself. All you're doing is accepting what someone has put out there on the internet, on Twitter, as accepted fact, as their true viewpoint, as non-sarcastic, whatever. And so you lose all of this. And I think that is sheer and utterly laziness on the part of journalists. So I think that they've enabled, by doing that, by the journalists, by the news media, by the mainstream news media, taking tweets and using them as the basis for an article, using half of their articles to copy and paste these quotes from Twitter. We've allowed Twitter to mutate into this this news media, this socially influencing sphere, rather than just being, commentary to share ideas and things. It has become the idea. It has become the source rather than, I think that is a huge failure. It allows the journalists to get even lazier. It allows people on Twitter to screw with the narrative, which can be a good thing. And it takes away the human analysis of the issue, and you just throw it out to masses who are just tweeting into the ether. And I think it's an all-around huge failure. I don't know how many people share that idea. I know this was part of the thing we were talking about last night with friends, and some of the younger ones were just like, you're just old. You don't get this social media thing. And I do, but maybe not to the same extent that other people do. I am old. I'm more of the traditional journalism, the Edward R. Murrows, the Sam Donaldsons, when an investigative journalist was an investigative journalist, rather than the journalists themselves, the writer of the article themselves, forwarding an agenda, forwarding a story, being the story. Oftentimes the reporter themselves are being the story. And I don't subscribe to that view at all. Is it lawful law asks, so what's the end game of this? I'm pretty black pill on it. Basically, nothing comes of it, and life continues as normal, and the corrupt stay corrupt. I don't think that is too far from the truth. The fact that we're fighting over free speech on an internet medium is weird anyway. The situation will continue as it is, or down whatever path we allow it to go down, where in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Twitter is really going to make that big of a difference in the grand scheme of global free speech efforts. It plays a role, but if Twitter goes away, something will replace it. If Twitter becomes the Facebook, which became the MySpace that it was trying to avoid becoming, something else will take its place. So I agree with you to that extent. And we've got in the early okay, hang on, we got one more super chat, then we'll jump into it here. Derma says it costs a media corporation very little to pay some kid squat to churn out Twitter stories, and it can take weeks or months to investigate something. Exactly, that's what I was saying by things like Twitter and relying on them as sources for your stories and comments on the stories. It encourages journalistic laziness. It encourages that. And it foments it, it fosters that. So in an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Again, not to share information and ideas, not to create news. And maybe I'm just reading too much into this. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Forced to add those barriers by whom or by what? Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Okay, so far, so good. We want to protect people from unwanted spam. We want to protect people from fraud. We want to put some sort of limits and barriers on the service, which I don't have a problem with. Slowly over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate them as well. First a little, then more often, then constantly. Well, Twitter staff and executives began to find more uses for these tools. Why were they finding uses for these tools? Agenda? Their own personal agendas, but also I'm putting a lot of this on the advertisers. I know you need financial resources to have a service like this, but the second advertisers get involved in anything, you have opened Pandora's box to things getting out of control like a wildfire. Once you invite someone that's giving you money into your realm, they, by definition, have control over you to a greater or lesser degree. Because you clearly can't afford to do this on your own, so you bring the people in. They say, my money, my rules. You want my money, you want my millions and perhaps billions of dollars. Well, you've got to follow this rule. You can't talk about this. You can't do that. Like one of the great things that apparently is now no longer a thing, but up until very, very recently, and this is just a weird little aside, was Apple. Apple would have all of these product placement things in movies with their iPhones and iMacs and whatnot. They would have all of these deals, but they had a rule for their advertisers, for these movies, that if you want our money, if you want our image, the evil guy can never be using an iPhone. So that became a thing. That became almost a trope in the movies where you could tell who the bad guy was early on because he had no Apple products on him. Go back and watch some movies and see. Check that out. It was a thing. Now, that's why I was surprised when I started seeing the baddies in the movies using iPhones. So that's what happens when you let money into your realm. That money begins to exert its pressure over what you can say and how you can say it. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, "More to review from the Biden team." The reply would come back, "Handled." So here we have Biden's team saying, look into these accounts. And okay, we've handled these. Now we're getting to some fishy territory. And this is just the beginning. Right now, we're just starting to scratch the surface of this. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. I grabbed the first one under SI, defer to safety on the high profile second one. Defer to safety on the high profile second one. What does that mean? We have the second one is the real James Woods, the actor James Woods, who is an amazing tweeter. If you're not following James Wood on Twitter, you really, really need to. He's got some good stuff out there. And because of his conservative political leanings, he's been essentially, to a certain extent, blacklisted in Hollywood, or at least gray-listed. And he was blocked from Twitter, of course, as so many people were. And he was just recently reinstated by our Lord and Savior Elon. But one thing that came out of this dump already, James Woods got crazy eyes. I'm excited to see his Twitter. Oh yeah, he's great. And one of the things to come out of this is this, and pretty much just because of that one tweet you read, we have this story here that James Woods has announced a lawsuit against Twitter and Democrats for censoring him about Hunter Biden. He claims his career went downhill after tweeting about Hunter Biden. So if we have time, we'll get into that part of it as well. But you're already seeing repercussions from this Twitter file dump. And it's coming back. Things are coming around full circle. Does he have a case? I don't know, but I mean, it's going to be a stretch, but it's going to be fun to see discovery. It's going to be fun to see what comes out of it. And James Woods has money, so it could be an interesting fight. But will he continue to sue Twitter now that it's in the hands of good people, allegedly good people? Could be in the hand of an alien overlord. We're not sure. But anyway, that's where some of this things is going here. And we've got one more super chat here. The one good thing about social media is that it's allowed journalism to become a working class profession again and created a new gateway up the middle classes. That is, I mean, the citizen journalist thing, that is one of the benefits, but it's also one of the drawbacks. When it works really, really well. When it's just some schmo in his basement tweeting BS out into the ether, it collapses, and it also casts aspersions, and it also denigrates the actual citizen journalist who is on site, who is witnessing things and reporting it. They all get lumped in together as unprofessional, unsourced, unvetted, where literally the people that are calling them unsourced, unprofessional, and unvetted are relying on tweets from unvetted, unprepared. It's this weird little incestuous big boys club. So that is the one good thing that I agree that it's done. It's allowed the normal guy to get his voice out there. But when commenting on things, it's always nice if the people commenting have at least a vague idea of what it is they're talking about, and that they're at least trying to get the facts straight. Then Matt continues here. Both parties had access to these tools. Okay, so that's fair, isn't it? Both parties can ask for things to be removed. I mean, is it good that both parties can say, well, we don't like this particular speech of this particular person, so therefore we want you to crush it? Is it right? Is it ethical? Is it morally good? I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think it is. But is it fair? Okay, let's say it's fair. The Democrats can ask for it. The Republicans can ask for it. It's fair, right? Ethical? No, but it's fair. Or is it? Requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, the system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts, because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation. Guess which one? There were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left, well, Democrats, than the right. Ooh, look at this. Here we go. Contributions by party of recipients. 2018, 2020, 2022. You had the Democrats 98, 99, 96% contributing to the party of the recipient. Look at these numbers. $1 million from Democrats, 14,000 from Republicans, 165,000 to $451. So what you have is, yes, it's fair because both sides have this resource available to them. Both sides have this resource available to them, but one side is overwhelmingly getting the advantage from this fair thing. One thing, if you recall back to 2016 when Trump was elected, everybody was saying, "Oh my God, this is George Orwell. This is 1984." Clearly, anyone that says that has not read 1984, because 1984 is not Donald Trump. 1984 is the left-wing socialists. The ones who tell you what you're allowed to think. The ones who tell you something didn't happen. They retcon history. This didn't happen. This was bad. We have to delete this from our history. Forget this happened. Move away from this. You can't say this. You have to talk about this. That is the crux of 1984. Not somebody saying, "I'm going to grab someone by their pussy." That's not 1984. That has nothing to do with it. So the people that claim 1984 have never, guaranteed you, have never read it. And if they did, they clearly didn't understand it's themselves they're talking about. And then also invoking this name of George Orwell, we have Animal Farm. Animal Farm is what we're seeing right here in this tweet. It's fair. It's equal. Both sides have access to this tool to ask that certain accounts be reviewed and action taken relating to them. Both sides have it. Both sides are equal. But when you have this type of disparity, we get right to the heart of Animal Farm, where they're telling the pigs, some are more equal than others. You're equal, but some are more equal than others. And that's what we're seeing here. When you stack a company full of left-wing Democrats, they're going to be much more sympathetic and receptive to the left-wing Democrats. So the resulting slant in content, however, in content moderation, let's try that sentence again. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you are about to read. However, it's also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. So we're getting actual boots on the ground here talking about things. David Walker hashtags four legs good, two legs better. Yeah. 1984 is a porno wrapped in a dystopia. There you go. Gypsy Soul just happened to glance over and see that she has now been a member for 1 month of the Clean and Sober crew and says, I am indeed clean and sober. Well, good for you. I try not to be sober as much as possible, but hey, we all have things. And Gene Jeffries has subscribed up to be the newest member. Congratulations to you for joining the Bent Halos and Broken Wings level. Thank you. That is greatly, greatly appreciated. Let's dive back right into our story. Okay, there was more throat clearing about the process, but screw it. Let's jump forward. Now we're going to get into the documents. Now we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of all this. Let's jump forward. The Twitter files, part 1, how and why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story. Wow. We're coming in with a punch. The Hunter Biden laptop story. There you go. They don't pull any punches. They dive in straight to the throat. How and why Twitter blocked the Hunter Biden laptop story. On October 14th, 2020, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of the Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. And that was there on the New York Post. People are critical of the New York Post for its particular political leanings and whatnot. But that's a story we can look at here in a little bit as well. If we have time, we'll go back to that. But Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and postings warning that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission via direct messages. A tool hitherto reserved for extreme cases, e.g. CP. And if you remember this, they were saying we have Hunter Biden's laptop. It's got all this information on it. It's tied to corruption in Ukraine. Retrospect. It has all this information. These improprieties that happened getting him to his post in Ukraine. It has all, it's a Epsteinian in its scope. Well, Twitter went out of its way to crush that story. Again, not only just blocking the transmission of the stories, just blocking anything to do with the Hunter Biden laptop, but ancillary things coming from that. You couldn't talk about it. And if you posted anything from it, it would block it out and say that it was a result of a hacking. It hadn't been vetted. There was so many of these different warning alerts and these warning messages that we got. So we have to just look and see how this continues here in the story. While White House spokesman Kayleigh McEnany, sorry, that was childish of me, was blocked out of her account for tweeting about the story. Poor Kayleigh. She was blocked out of her account for tweeting about not tweeting the story, tweeting about the story, prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffer Mike Hahn, who seethed, "At least pretend to care for the next 20 days." This was from October 14th, 2020. Kayleigh has been locked out from her Twitter account for simply talking about the New York Post story. All she did was cite the story and firsthand reporting that has been reported by other outlets and not disputed by the Biden campaign. See, this is where we're starting to get in the problems. Twitter is putting its hands in there. The big deal is they're saying, oh, the right was stealing the election, was manipulating the election, was trying. This is Twitter. This is a major social media network who is controlling the narrative. The story's not disputed by the Biden campaign. The story has been reported on news outlets everywhere, but someone is being blocked from their Twitter account for referring to an article that has been posted elsewhere and is not being disputed by the White House. That's a staffer acting either on their own initiative or on instructions from someone in the Biden campaign to manipulate the information, to prevent people from seeing information that could be pertinent that you would want to consider when deciding whom to vote for. So someone takes it upon themselves to block that. John McGarvey says, I think John McCain and Crazy Nancy were locked in their rooms as kids and only given 1984 and Brave New World to read. Okay, thank you for that. And while I'm out here, just want to say we got 615 concurrent viewers and 312 likes. Come on, guys, get over there, hit that like button. That's the 37-minute warning there. Just checking in, reminding you that as a creator, I would deeply appreciate it if you would take half a second out of your life, reach down there, smash that like button. Thank you very much. And thank you, John McGarvey, for that super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciated. So we get back to this. She had her account nuked. She'd been locked out of her account for simply talking about this story. I need an answer immediately on when and how she will be unlocked. And again, this isn't Joe Schmo they're locking out. This isn't just a rando that someone's going, okay, you're being an idiot on Twitter. This is an important person in the Trump White House. I also don't appreciate how anybody on this team called me. Well, I also don't appreciate I don't appreciate how nobody on this team called me regarding this news that you'll be censoring news articles. Like I said, at least pretend to care for the next 20 days. At least pretend to care. They locked out the White House spokeswoman from her Twitter account. Okay, private company can do it at once. We kind of get back to that. But as the last line of that says, at least pretend to care. At least pretend to care. This led public policy executive Carolyn Storm to send out a polite WTF query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the comms policy terms, who had little/less control over moderation, and the trust and the safety/trust teams. We've got all these little teams that are together. Hi, team. Are you able to take a closer look here? Thank you. So what that gets at is they're asking, and this is a problem that YouTube has too. Can you read the next tweet in the Valley Girl voice? No. When you have a company like Twitter that gets so top heavy and you get these different teams that take action of their own initiative, but they don't talk with other teams. and you have to get one team to talk to the other team to try to get some answers, and there's no communication back and forth. So the comm/policy teams are not talking with the safety/trust teams, and you have to beg one to talk to another. Strom's note returned the answer that the laptop story has been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. That's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. That you basically saying that you're posting about stuff that was illegally gotten. Well, I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That could make me really, really grumpy. So, yeah. Right, there we go. That would had to stuff that one back down where it came from. Hi, Caroline. Thanks for reaching out to us. For checking, the user was bounced by site integrity. That to me just sounds like a very Soviet bureau. It's the Moscow view, the Moscow Bureau of Site Integrity for violating our hacked materials policy. Adding them here for further insights and guidance. Thanks. Ops Analyst, Global Escalations Team. This is like, it's either like Soviet Politburo thing. It's like, Soviet cabinet names or Scientology names. Ops Analyst, Global Escalations Team, Sea Org. Shit like that. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there is no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. What, pray tell, is Matt talking about? Well, let's see. How could it be a problem that governments are not involved in the laptop story? Well, the decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal policy and Vijaya Gade playing a key role. Without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, I have problems believing that. If you're going to take such high-profile actions, I don't see how, from an organizational standpoint, you could exclude the CEO from knowing about this. So I'm not really buying that he didn't know about it, unless it was, okay, we have this issue that's been put before us. Do we take this action? Do we not take this action? I want plausible deniability. So do what you want to do, but just don't tell me about that. That's the only way I could really see that the CEO would not be in on this decision. Is if he just said, as if he went down the path that I just said. Said, all right, do what you need to do what you want to do, but I want plausible deniability. Don't tell me what you're doing. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. Just do it. Which also, to me, is equally as shady. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was an excuse. Of course it was an excuse. They don't want the Hunter laptop documents, the information to get out. They don't want to hear about all of these ties and things back there. They don't want this to get out because it affects their narrative. And someone who I hope can affect my narrative and at least make it knowledgeable and comprehensible, Ariana Grande. Well, Grande, fuck me. Did I just say that? Oh, Christ. I just said that, didn't I? I just said Ariana Grande. Can we start this over again? Ariadna Jacob, Ari. That's what happens when I stop calling people by their usual.
I thought you were doing it on purpose, like it's like
No,
to be funny.
I'm just an
You could have
idiot.
gone with it. You could have gone.
I
with
know, but I stunned, that's what I would usually have done, but I stunned myself so badly with that I couldn't pull it out of the fire at the last moment. That if I would have just said, welcome, Ari, it never would have happened.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Thank you for
God.
having me. Sorry.
Welcome, Ari.
Literally have been on Twitter Spaces all day. I finally just left my house to get some food. I actually did go to the gym, but that's the good thing about Twitter Spaces is that you can like multitask. But I do like looking at video more. So anyway, hopefully I'm glad.
So
that
all everybody in your Twitter space heard was
yeah, right.
as you're exercising.
I was just listening. I wasn't speaking in the in the one where Elon got in there, but it was it's pretty incredible to listen to, a guy that anyway, to somebody that has his influence that's just, he was traveling on his plane somewhere and somehow someone got him the link to join in that Twitter Spaces. It's just, whether you like Elon or not, I think there's something to say for a tech CEO that's willing to do that kind of in an impromptu fashion.
Isabella Rainey says, "Lol."
There.
I was looking away and I heard that and I got really excited and I was like, "How do you pull that off?" Hey,
Sorry,
I've got someone who influences people like Ariana Grande. For those that don't know, give us a little background, Ari. Who are you and what do you do and why are you such a power broker in Hollywood?
I don't know if I'm
yes, you are.
I've just been on social media and working in the space since like MySpace times, and yeah, I've helped some of the biggest social media creators develop their personal brand online, and I've worked with major Fortune 500 companies to activate with social media influencers, and I even worked with Canelo the boxer. I brought Britney Spears to Vegas for the first time since her conservatorship ended. So I've done some cool stuff with celebrities, but my passion is sort of the internet and being able for regular people to be able to tell stories online.
And I would much rather have you here than Ariana Grande because you're smart.
Thank you.
And yeah. I'm impressed with how quickly you responded. That was a flash. I just looked at the screen, I looked back and you had it there.
I used to work and I was a VIP host and like for nightclubs when I was in my 20s, and they used to call me Quick Draw McGraw because if a big VIP texts you and you don't answer, that guy's going to the next person. So it sort of got what's it called when we're just used to just responding really fast. So.
Well, don't confuse me with a bigwig VIP, but
you are VIP, baby.
but I win because I started at the top and I got the top. So there we go.
There you go.
And we have 666 viewers. Sign of the devil now here.
Yeah.
All right. Now, okay, we've just got to this point here where we're talking about whether or not Jack Dorsey knew about this policy. Did he know about this policy? What do you think?
I think he probably did. I don't know what time frame they're covering.
This is right. Yeah, right after the New York Post broke the story, and then Twitter locked everybody down and said, "No, we're locking this out." Hacking is an excuse when they were using this as hack material. This is a violation of the hack material policy, and they're saying that their CEO knew nothing about it, and they were all just acting independently. So the only way I can see that working is if he says, "I want plausible deniability. I don't want to know what you're doing because I don't want to be brought into it." That's the only way.
And people need to realize that Jack Dorsey is simultaneously running his payments app, which I'm sure, I'm sure that I don't know much about sort of the behind the scenes of how his company works, but I'm guessing that if you're running a major payments platform, you're probably dealing with, or you're probably in a position where you want to keep things friendly with the government. And I don't know, I know that payments in and of itself, they have so many regulatory things that perhaps he was playing along to not, rock the boat too much. I think at some point he got, he wasn't the CEO. You never know how much oversight they have. And sometimes, maybe he was just comfortable in the position he was. But I also think he sees what Elon is doing, and he's, he still has he still has equity in the company, and he's still involved at some level, right now with Twitter.
I'm not sure how involved he still is.
I think he kept a certain amount of, I forget exactly what he did, but he's still involved, I think. And I'm pretty sure somebody can fact check me on that. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe Elon just has bigger balls to do some of this stuff. Because,
that's the good thing.
This stuff can affect Elon's companies with Tesla and SpaceX as well.
And I mean, that's what I just find it so impossible to say that your company's CEO would not know if you are blocking the account of the White House spokesperson.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Schmo sitting at a desk somewhere in Mumbai is not making that decision to block the White House spokesperson's Twitter account.
But I do think that some of these people had incredible influence, like Vijaya. I think Farron had tweeted out today, which I thought was kind of interesting, like a little clip of her talking about how supposedly you could get this information anywhere for what requests were being put in by different governments. And that was the first time I ever heard of that. And if that's true, where was that? And did it actually exist? And was this stuff on there? I doubt it. But I'm not a journalist, so, but I can't imagine that somebody wouldn't have dug deep enough to find that if it did exist.
Yeah, and then let's just kind of dive back into this here. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. Hacking was the excuse, but within a few hours, pretty much everyone realized that wasn't going to hold, but no one had the guts to reverse it. You can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange, which ends up including, how do we pronounce Vijaya's last name?
Gade?
That's what I've been saying, Gade. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. But, and former Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Wait, time out. We have Farron joining us finally now. Welcome, Farron.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
I'm doing good. Sorry for all of the confusion I caused by forgetting there's an international date line. When I said tomorrow, I meant my tomorrow, not yours.
Yeah, you fucking idiot. It's been a while. So you finally got on the Twitter grift. I see.
Well, yeah, just had nothing else better to do, and it was kind of getting out of control. And then I woke up and started listening to the deal this morning that we'll get into, and I thought, okay, this isn't going away.
Yeah. First things first, too, that I wanted to kind of get your viewers informed with. I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Taibbi. But this
we're going down this right now here. Yeah.
This has, not even that, as far as him as a reporter. He worked for the Rolling Stone. He's a major reporter who has been called a Russian asset. He's been called a number of different things. One of the things that's interesting with all of this, and I said this last night on my stream when we were going through it live, is that this is severely reminiscent of the Edward Snowden drop by Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi. If you don't know Glenn Greenwald, he worked for The Guardian at the time, that started The Intercept, now is on his own. But he did the Edward Snowden drop that was like a drip style of writing. So right now, like in the news industry, what's happening is this whole, series, this first series part, he's doing what we call in the news business, like the nuts and bolts, the who, what, where, when, and how. Then he's going to start going into, and like Ari, I saw you were in the Twitter spaces earlier with Elon. Then he's going to start going topic by topic. One of the things that I am arguing as to why I don't think Jack Dorsey knew about any of this is because Matt Taibbi, in no way, shape, or form, with his journalistic ethics, would ever stump for Jack Dorsey, ever.
Oh, he already said that Jack, I didn't know that he said that Jack didn't know.
Yeah. And he does this in multiple different ways, but one of the ways that I think he's going to do it is he is going to, I think, at first go through all of Jack Dorsey's emails to show how he did not know, then go through.
I don't believe that, Farron. I don't believe he didn't know. Unless, if you know Matt Taibbi, though, like Matt Taibbi
There's no freaking way he would let that go. There's no way.
I don't believe he's not. I don't believe he's lying about it.
And if Jack did know, that would be the story. That's the story.
But see, what I'm saying is I mean, maybe it's just me and how I would, maybe I watch too much TV, but I could see this being a discussion had between Dorsey and somebody else outside on a park bench somewhere, or him saying, as we were talking about just a minute ago, you guys do what you do. I want plausible deniability. Don't tell me about it. Those are the only ways I could see he didn't know about it, is if he said, I don't want to hear a thing about this. Keep my name out of this. Because I don't think you can block the White House spokesman's Twitter account without the CEO knowing about it.
Here's one thing I wanted to bring up, and that I think is really interesting, is that Elon said that Barry Weiss is going to have access to all these files as well. And if people don't know who Barry Weiss is, something that is I found interesting, I kind of knew about this, but it's relayed a little bit better in her Wikipedia. She resigned from the New York Times in 2020, and it's sort of like poetic justice to let her run with the story, because it says here that Weiss accused her former employer, the New York Times, of unlawful discrimination, hostile work environment, and constructive discharge. In her letter, so she posted her resignation letter, and it said, in her letter, Weiss said, stories are chosen and told in a way to satisfy the narrowest of audiences rather than to allow a curious public to read about the world and then draw their own conclusions. She also wrote, Twitter is not on the masthead of the New York Times, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. I thought that was really interesting to draw back, like, who is Barry Weiss? Why is she getting the opportunity? And I think it's cool that Elon Musk is going to these traditionally sort of liberal journalists and allowing them, but giving them sort of the like a reward for actually being fair, right? Because they have been providing fair coverage and not getting basically bullied into saying whatever it is that the narrative of the New York Times or people on the left or whoever it is. And so I think that is strategically smart, and you know, people may not know who Matt and Barry Weiss are, but I think that was done very thoughtfully.
And I do need to make a clarification. Seems people are getting wrong signals here. Taibbi is hands down the best journalist of the last 15 years. He won't lie about it for Dorsey. I'm not saying he's lying about it for Dorsey. I'm just saying that I think Dorsey has purposely moved himself out of the I don't want to know for plausible deniability sphere.
The way that he did it, I think, as Ari mentioned, he focused on his payment processing stuff. And we'll go through the tweets more, because you'll see there's the bombshell tweet that I think that nobody's talking about. But you'll see how more and more he goes through how Jack Dorsey didn't know. And if you even remember too, I have a couple of clips that I'll bring up for you to show your audience. When he was on the Joe Rogan podcast with this Vayara, or Varaya, or I call her Vajayjay.
That's what I call her too.
Yeah, Vajayjay.
I was trying so hard not to call her Vajayjay that I introduced our host Ariadna Grande at the beginning of this. I don't know if you heard that.
Hey, girl. But no. So when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast with Vajayjay and Tim Pool went down the line and asked her about every single person that had gotten kicked off of Twitter. And Jack Dorsey at certain points was like, wait, why did they get kicked off? Like, we watched him in real time learn about people who were either suspended, kicked off, banned, what have you. So I think we can keep going through the tweets, but I'm going to pull some stuff up for you too as well.
I'm setting up my better camera, by the way. Sorry if I'm not. I'm
trying
to get my better setup.
All right.
I'm never prepared. Like, something's always dead when I got my perfect setup.
and both of you, this was so spur of the moment. Well, it was extra spur of the moment for Farron once we finally realized that I'm an idiot. But thanks both so much again. Clear 4 super chats here. First, is this lawful law? Was enjoying, and then Farron arrived later, folks. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Lawful law. We'll catch you later. Yeah. Because I love you. You're a great part of my chat. You're a huge supporter. But if I'm talking about articles involving journalists and journalistic integrity, I'm going to have a journalist and a top-notch journalist at that on here talking about it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Paul Farrell. Musk bought all of Twitter, turning it privately owned by him alone. I think he is gonna go public with it again and make an absolute fuck ton of money. Which like he needs more, but he's gonna make more. Punch the dirty roofer, Jeff. We know you got kids. We know you can't pull out.
All right, I'm gonna switch to my better setup.
You do that. So glad to see you streaming this important topic tonight. Also, hi, Ariana Grande. Ha, ha, ha. Well, I did say Ariadna Grande. At least I got the first part right. That's what happens when I don't call people Ari and other things that they're normally called in the relative sphere of things. But all right, so we've got this out. And again, before we dive back into this,
yeah,
a lot of people are criticizing Matt because, because he just works for Rolling Stone.
No. He now he's a contributor here and there, but he's worked for the Moscow Times. He lived in Uzbekistan and Russia for a little bit. Then he came back here again, was with Rolling Stone. He's done a number of very important stories, particularly and he's also an author. And he's written, about Donald Trump and how, horrible Trump was, which I think that's the thing that's interesting with Elon. It's a great PR move to have a more liberal journalist covering this, because he's not going to have, he would have more of a bias out of anybody to help protect the Democrats. And this is one of their own. But Matt Taibbi truly is just a journalist through and through, along with Glenn Greenwald.
And you can't say things like only Rolling Stone. But yeah, so it used to be a magazine. Now it's a site about music, but there is still some incredible journalism that goes on there. Playboy, that used to be a thing. They had some amazing stories and amazing news articles and in-depth things. There literally were articles in Playboy. It wasn't just a joke. But you can't just say you worked for X outlet or X media or X magazine, so therefore your opinion doesn't matter. That's just not a thing.
One of the biggest people, I talked about this on my locals this morning. One of the biggest people that's really salty about this is Miranda Devine, because it was her article by the Post, she's a journalist at the New York Post. This was her article that was censored, and you could see she's like, Substack journalist Matt Taibbi. It's like, no, he's a little bit more than that. Number one, and number two. There's no way you could cover it, honey, because you have a complete and total bias. So therefore, your reporting wouldn't be fair. Going outside and getting a third party to cover all of this. And folks, there are thousands of emails this guy has to go through. I mean, it's like with Glenn Greenwald, with Edward Snowden, there was thousands of pages, thousands of documents. You can't just verbal diarrhea all of this stuff onto the people, because then important key facts are going to get lost. So he's going to do this step by step, take our hands, walk us through it, and show us everything that happened.
Well, John Gibbons says, how the fuck does he know he didn't know? Well, we'll get into that. Some of the tweets. The tweets get into that a little bit. Welcome back. Oh, that's a much better camera. Yeah. You look professional now. Wow. And Paul Farrell says, when Jack was on Joe Rogan, Jack was talked and walked over by Vijay. She was in charge, not Jack.
Yeah, she was his handler. It was weird.
Can we just talk about how much money she made too, and how
17 million.
A bit. She made it a little bit
last year. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Gad, glad you guys are on. Needed a break from my literature assignment. Thank you here for the truth. And I'm sorry, but unless this stuff rises to the level of being criminal, this is a nothing burger. At best, Congress will do nothing. At worst, they will. Well, this is just
like the mainstream media got to that person.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just repeating sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I talked over you. I apologize.
No, I talked over you. I was just laughing because that's like the talking point that I've seen.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say too. And we're there. I mean, you do get into there's some questions of fairness here where you can't interfere with elections by allowing one party to say something or blocking some party from, it's a fine line. I mean, I would not be surprised if there was some Department of Justice investigations coming from
this administration. Hell to the frickin' no. Come on. Pull your head out of your ass, buddy. This administration? Are you kidding me? Merrick Garland? No, he just got a special counsel. They're still looking at Trump. You think they're going to look at Twitter? They don't know the difference between a sneeze and a wet fart at this point. They have no idea what they're doing. Sorry, rant over.
A couple more tweets here about Jack knowing, and then we'll get back into the evidence of why he may not have known. was Jack rolled his $1 billion Twitter shares and rolled them into must purchase. Ian Mack, great to get Farron's view, not to derail, but Ari Maritime, have you done any videos on migrants need rescuing at sea, France, UK? No, I have not. I just kind of, and I just deleted the last one. There we go. 99% sure of this, says Alfarius Omegan. 99% sure this was done with Jack's knowing. He just used Gotti as a cutout for plausible deniability because Congress was doing hearings. Can't perjure yourself with a cutout handling the dirty work. And see, again, I think maybe he didn't know, but he just said, I don't want to know. But with that, let's dive back into the story here. As soon as I highlight a couple more things to get to later. Sorry, folks. We'll have to wait a little bit to do the you're the 3 super chats that just came in because I've been doing the last 3 super chats for the last 20 minutes now. So let's pull this back up and continue our little dive here into.
Oh, by the way, he's supposed to, I thought he was supposed to be releasing some today, but I guess it didn't happen yet. Or
no, it's happening tonight. I called it. I said I was like between like 10 and 11 tonight because there's a whole news cycle, folks. Remember, Congress went away Thursday night after they passed their whole railway vote. The mainstream media, everybody goes home on Friday at 5. It's all of your B teams now on the weekends. These folks that the top, your A teams are going to be forced to talk about it on Monday because they're going to want to have their say. It's a genius way to keep this in the news cycle for the next week, 2 weeks, however long, these drops come.
Oh yeah.
Well, and the whole hour, or however long that Elon was in that Spaces today, that's going to be a whole nother thing to report on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting too to get like a journalist point of view on how it's going to roll out.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have the October 14th, 2020 from Trenton Kennedy. I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe. And I think the best explainability argument for this externally would be that we're waiting to understand if this story is the result of hacked materials. We'll face hard questions on this if we don't have some kind of solid reasoning for marking the link unsafe. This is someone from inside Twitter saying this.
Yeah, asking why. And mind you, they're talking about, we don't understand why hacked materials. Okay, if that's the basis then, Vijay, then every single story where it was an unnamed source or somebody like that gave you materials or, that gave other journalists materials, those are considered hacked sources. Why weren't those stories censored? Where was all the censorship in that? Oh, there was none because it was against Trump.
Yeah. And then someone else, Katie Rosborough, says, will we mark similar stories as unsafe? And the story is the Hunter Biden emails Senate Homeland Security Committee investigating the hard drive. They literally crushed that story for this reason. Mm-hmm. And by this point, everyone knew this was fucked, said one former employee. But the response was essentially to err on the side of continuing to err. The policy basis is hacked materials. Though, as discussed, this is an emerging situation where the facts remain unclear. Given the severe risks here and lessons of 2016, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing this content from being amplified. What is this warning that will come up? New, when you click the link, you'll see the generic unsafe URL, references spam, malware, violations of Twitter rules. Not ideal, but it's the only thing we have. Yep. Whatever we do in the comms, this will become a bias claim for Jack pre-hearing immediately. Let's make it clear we're proactively but cautiously interpreting this through the lens of our hacked materials policy and allowing the link with a warning and significant reduction of spread.
I see people in the chat talking about the Twitter Spaces from today. I'm curious, what they didn't like about the specific hosts up there. I have my thoughts on the people, but it's interesting because hosting a Twitter Spaces isn't easy, and especially when you have somebody really prominent like Elon Musk up there, kind of giving everybody the opportunity to speak. And I did see some tweets saying these people are really narcissistic, and everybody wants to speak over. I honestly think that some people may have just gotten a little bit of what's it called when you like see a celebrity and you get like giddy and then they're just like talking and probably but like somebody said Ian was rude. I'm just curious. I'm just looking at this just to see kind of what people think. But it is difficult to host a Twitter Spaces, and it's sort of a talent that you kind of have to develop to be a good host and fair. But yeah.
The one problem that I had was that they pretty much had every single Fox News host up there asking questions, including former Fox News host that was fired by Fox because he was sending intimate pictures of his to other colleagues. Oh yeah, that's why he was let go. Who is now at Newsmax, who literally
I have to rescue a toy from under the table so the dog stops barking.
Who literally asked the question. So there was a point where I lost 80,000 followers and made the question about him. And I was like, are you flipping kidding me right now?
I thought
you're going to make this about you.
Yeah. I thought the same. I mean, it's kind of like this, ability to read the room, and he could have asked that question in a way that would have not made him sound so self-serving, and that's I think
barking in too. It was like, shut up.
Yeah. And like I've been in different Twitter Spaces with Ian, and like I don't know a ton about him. I guess a lot of people are saying he doesn't live in the United States. But I do know that, like, for example, one of the things that a lot of people have been DMing me in the background of some of those spaces, and just because, if somebody follows you, you have direct connection to them. So I could ping Ian or whatever. And one of the things was that a lot of people are still being suppressed and shadow banned or search banned on Twitter. And essentially, and even Rose McGowan was, I pinged her to come into the space, and she and I were talking offline about it. And I pinged Ian about it, and he ended up asking Elon. And essentially what Elon said was like, hey guys, I just got here. I'm doing my best to work through the different aspects. And so I think all these things are on his list. But yeah, it's crazy how much he's gotten done in a month versus how long has Twitter been around and not been profitable and not fixing these issues.
But Farron, what do we got here in this stream in the background?
I was in the queue to ask a question, and this is the question that I was going to ask about. If you bring it up really quick, that nobody asked about.
Okay, can we bring it up a bit when we talk about this, or do we need to bring it up?
Okay, then just keep going.
Thing? All right, we'll keep it there. We'll burn through these, then we'll talk about the thing that happened today. Everybody was there and listening to it, and I didn't catch nearly enough of it. So we get back to the former VP of Global Comms. Listen to who is asking this. The former Vice President of Global Comms. He asks, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? To Ian's point, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy, i.e. as part of our approach to addressing potentially hacked materials? We are limiting visibility of related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing. That's predetermination.
Explain that to me a little bit. I don't understand that one. Or like what?
This was they were saying they're blocking the story about the laptop because it's information based on hacked materials in violation of their hacked materials policy, and the vice president of Global Comms is saying, is it really part of the policy? So are we going to address these potentially hacked materials and call them potentially hacked materials are we going to limit visibility to them while we're still investigating whether or not they really are hacked materials? So they're saying they're making the decision for us that they are hacked materials before they even investigate whether or not they are.
Got it.
And he's saying, is that really part of our policy? To which the Deputy General Counsel, the number 2 lawyer guy at Twitter,
Jim Baker was the lawyer for the FBI in the Obama administration. Wow. So he went from being the general counsel for the FBI to now being the general counsel for Twitter.
I did not know that.
That's why you have me here, buddy.
Yeah. to advise staying the non-course because caution is warranted. I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it is reasonable for us to assume that they may have been, and that caution is warranted. There are some facts that indicate that the materials may have been hacked, while there are others indicating that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information. I mean, that's stunning. Again, it goes back to a private company, do whatever the hell they want. But when you're holding yourself out as this free speech, open, it starts to bog down and looks bad and could get some, whether now or later, some DOJ interest.
Well, and not to mention too, that if you're waiting on, the investigation is ongoing, then basically like any tweet, like why does Twitter even exist? I mean, just any news article, any kind of story, the investigation or the news story is always ongoing. It's just the hypocrisy here is just stunning.
Well, and we see that here coming up right in the next little tweet here. A fundamental problem with tech companies and content moderation. Many people in charge of speech care little about speech and have to be told the basics by outsiders. To wit, in one humorous exchange on day one, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna reaches out to Gaeta to gently suggest that she hop on the phone to talk about the backlash, RE's speech. Khanna was the only Democratic official I could find in the files who expressed concern. Generating huge backlash on Hill. RE's speech. Happy to chat if you're up for it.
So here's the thing with Ro Khanna. First of all, can somebody do a quality check on him or a health check? Because Ro Khanna did not off himself. Let's just put that out there now. Second, Ro Khanna is in the Progressive Caucus. Progressives very much about free speech. I'd be interested to see if any other Progressive Caucus members come out in support of Ro Khanna for doing this. Oh, wait, no, they're not, because they're bought by the DNC already now. So but it is interesting, though, that you have a congressman coming forward and being like, basically trying to say like Streisand effect with this story. And having, Ro Khanna, I believe he's a lawyer. Coming forward, and you'll see in the next tweet, schooling them on what the law is on the First Amendment, and then the JJ's response.
Well, she quickly responded. Thank you for reaching out, and we appreciate the heads up. We put out a clarifying thread of tweets earlier this evening to explain our policy around the posting of private information and linked directly to hacked materials. The press secretary's account was not permanently suspended. The press secretary's account was not permanently, just until after the election. We requested that she delete the tweet containing material that is in violation of our rules, and her account is restricted until she complies. I'd be happy to jump on the phone if helpful. My team in DC, Jessica and Lauren, are copied here and also available to discuss. Well, Khanna tries to reroute the conversation to the First Amendment, mentioning of which is generally hard to find in the files. But this seems a violation of the First Amendment.
Really quick, too, the JJ is a lawyer herself. She went to Cornell and then NYU Law.
That explains a lot.
I was going to say, this is one of these, I believe, and like I said, I'll have to check with Ro Khanna, but I'm almost positive he's a lawyer as well. But it's like lawyer schooling lawyer here,
If there's a hack of classified information or other information that could expose a serious war crime and the NYT was to publish it, I think the NYT should have that right. A journalist should not be held accountable for the illegal actions of the source unless they actively aided the hack. So, to restrict the distribution of that material, especially regarding a presidential candidate, seems not in the keeping of the principles of the NYT v. Sullivan. I say this as a total Biden partisan. This is not a Trumper here. This is a total Biden partisan saying you're doing this wrong, and convinced he didn't do anything wrong, but the story now has become more about censorship than relatively innocuous emails and has become a bigger deal than it would have been. It is also now leading to serious efforts to curtail Section 230, many of which would have been a mistake. I believe Twitter itself should curtail what it recommends or puts in trending news, and your policy against QAnon group is all good. It's a hard balance, But in the heat of a presidential campaign, restricting dissemination of news articles, even if NY Post is far right, seems like it will invite more backlash than it will do good. Please keep this communication between just us and Jack.
Yeah.
Dun,
you
dun,
fucking
dun,
bitch.
Jack.
You
And
bitch.
Jack is mentioned here, and no need to CC the team or forward them. Just wanted to offer my
By the way,
Also,
I hope somebody goes through her Joe Rogan, what's his name, interview.
Don't worry. I have clips. Don't worry.
No, I saw what you posted, and I think
Mhm.
someone needs to go and basically expose all her BS that she most likely spewed on that, and fact check it with this stuff that's coming out now, because it needs to be shown, because that was clearly a PR move to go on Joe Rogan and try to be popular, and like, what were they really doing?
Yeah. And the other thing too is Rokana is a lawyer. He went to Yale Law School. So
let's burn through these last 3 tweets. These last two tweets. Yeah. These last 3 tweets.
Sorry, I didn't mean to show my lap there.
Well,
Jeffrey, are you going to Jeffrey Toobin us?
I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing shorts.
Ariadna is now officially grande.
Yeah.
And everybody, I'm watching my OnlyFans tonight. No, I'm just kidding.
And with that, we'll go through the last 3 tweets here. Then I'll go take a cold shower and we'll be right back. Within a day, head of public policy Lauren Culbertson receives a ghastly letter from Carl Sabo, from Carl, of the research firm NetJoice. Carl, which had already polled 12 members of Congress, 9 R's and 3 D's from the House Judiciary Committee to Rep. Judy Chu's office. Lauren, yesterday, NetChoice's Chris Marchese met informally with 9 Republicans and 3 Democrat House staffers to gather intel about FB and Twitter and the NY Post story. The staffers hail from the House Judiciary Committee to Representative Chu's office.
Judy Chu.
Twitter lets Twitter know a bloodbath awaits in upcoming Hill hearings, with members saying it's a tipping point, complaining tech has grown so big that they can't even regulate themselves, so government may need to intervene. High-level takeaway: every Republican and this is a tipping point is just too much, and both Democrats and Republicans were angry. My dog is angry. Why are you angry, dog? Because I'm not playing. Hush.
Is it Strawberry or Yoda?
My dog's doing the same thing, Yoda. But he could smell my food that I just got.
Yeah, that's the don't play with me. We'll let you talk about this last thing while I put the dogs out. Szabo reports to Twitter, and some Hill figures are characterizing the laptop story as Tech's Access Hollywood rumors moment. When asked just how bad the situation is, one staffer said it's Tech Access Hollywood moment, and it has no Hillary to hide behind. Others were more blunt. Tech is screwed, and rightfully so. And the very last one here, the First Amendment isn't absolute. The letter contains chilling passages relaying Democratic lawmakers' attitudes. They want more moderation. And as for the Bill of Rights, it's not absolute. The Democrats, meanwhile, complained that the companies are inept. They let conservatives muddy the waters and make the Biden campaign look corrupt, even though Biden is innocent. They linked this to Hillary Clinton's email scandal. She did nothing wrong, but because the press wouldn't let the story go, it became a scandal far out of proportion. In their mind, social media is doing the same thing. It doesn't moderate enough harmful content. So when it does, like it did yesterday, it becomes a story. If companies moderated more, conservatives wouldn't even think to use social media for disinformation, misinformation, or otherwise. The Democrats were in agreement. Social media needs to moderate more because they're corrupting democracy. Free speech is fucking corrupting democracy. The freedom of information, the free flow of ideas is corrupting democracy and making all truth relative. When pushed on how government might insist on that, consistent with the First Amendment, they demurred. The First Amendment isn't absolute. That takes us to the end of the first dump. Which leads us to today. There's others.
I believe. You might have missed my favorite one.
These are the only ones I've seen.
No, there's more where they weren't in order, where they weren't numbered. They were like more comments.
Oh, I did not see those. These are the only ones I've seen, was these official numbered dumps. But that takes us to today. Ari, you were there the whole time. I'm sure you were there too, Farron. While I put the dogs out, why don't you start us off, Ari, and brief us on what happened today?
By the way, I want to preface it with what I was DMing you earlier, with the fact that I went on a Hinge date last night and the guy was asking me, like, what do you do for fun? And like, I literally started saying, well, I go on the internet and listen to and talk to my YouTube friends and go on podcasts. And he just like looked at me horrified.
Yeah.
Like,
all my friends are on the internet. Yeah, no, trust
I don't
me.
think this is gonna work out. He's like, how many hikes have you done in the last year? I'm like, I haven't gone to many hiking things, but anyway.
And while I'm putting this out, make sure we go to Little Miss Jacob. It's at influencer or influencers on YouTube.
Influences.
Influences
her website, yeah.
On YouTube. Yeah. Her YouTube channel is at Influences, and Fair and Balanced is Fair and Balanced. Farron has her locals thing set up and her Rumble thing set up as well. And go to there, subscribe to them, like everything they've ever done, and reach down there and smash that like button. We're at 515 likes and 857 viewers. Let's see how many likes. Let's get us up to 700 before I get back from taking the dogs out. Ready, go. Take it away, Ari.
By the way, whoever just said, he's a beta, it's a funny thing when you think about how normal people consume the news. It's not like we are kind of like first adopters, like super fans of I guess citizen journalism is part of what it is, and then partly just understanding media and how voices get heard. And if this is sort of what you geek out on, I think this is a really interesting time to know that Twitter's out there. And I keep telling a lot of the people I work with in terms of like celebrities and social media people that like don't sleep on Twitter, because if you get on Twitter now and figure out how it works, figure out Twitter Spaces, when Elon fixes all the things and brings up all the opportunities, like these are going to be the first people to be able, the people that get the most value out of it, and potentially the ones where a Twitter helps them the most, right? Because the platforms are looking at who is helping them grow, who's helping them bring advertisers on, those people are not, I don't think that those people are going to be forgotten in this sort of second era of Twitter. And so it's a big opportunity for content creators, and even if it's not 100% there. And I also think that they really have to figure out how Gen Z is going to be interested in this stuff, because the same way that Gen Z got interested in the Johnny Depp case and probably blew up some of these channels like Emily D. Baker and whatnot, it sort of it brought it to the mainstream, whereas I don't think as many young people are that interested or care necessarily about the Hunter Biden story and how that played out and how that affected history. Unfortunately, young people are really they're interested in, you have to like package things a specific way for young people, I think, to get interested and to not only listen, but also engage. So.
Well, and I think one of the ways that you're going to see more and more Gen Zers getting involved in certain things, particularly in reference to Sam Bankman-Fried, where you have this kid who has billions of dollars. He's in a house in the Bahamas with the ugliest group of people I've ever seen, all banging each other. And here's the thing, is here he donated all this money to Democrats, and nothing's going to happen. I mean, Bernie Madoff served jail time for the Ponzi scheme that he created. This is essentially also a Ponzi scheme, and nothing's going to happen. And this kid, Sam Bankman-Fried, I believe is either, the tail end of millennials or early Gen Z. But when they start seeing more and more of these people, when they start, donating to either Democrats or Republicans alike, and nothing happens to them, that's when citizen journalism, like a Matt Taibbi, like a Glenn Greenwald, like, a lot of these other people, versus who they see, Taylor Lorenz, who is 45, by the way. Okay. when you see the dichotomy and the difference between those two types of journalists, where one actually is praising the censorship and what China is doing, a la Taylor Lorenz, and calling for more strict oversight in China, which it's like the WTF, are you an American?
Right.
And then versus Matt Taibbi, who's like, hang on a second, I'm looking and I'm seeing that people were shadow banned, people were targeted, people were, what have you, strictly based on, saying what would be the truth, and researchers show with, this younger generation that we're actually building the most conservative generation that this country will ever see. Why? Because they're going to have to deal with what pronoun are you? Why are you a Democrat or a Republican? And now I'm going to make my judgments off of you. Why? Oh gosh, if I believe that I should be, be able to do my sport and not have a guy who now thinks that he's a woman compete against me. There's so many things happening to this younger generation. And I'm talking like between like your 8-year-olds to like now maybe your middle high schoolers, junior high schoolers. Mm-hmm. They're going to be the most conservative generation we've ever seen because they have to put up with so much crap and they're going to be done with it. And I'm trying to remember who the journalist was that wrote on this and was seeing the trend, but I full-heartedly believe it, that our children today, and the other thing is they're going to remember COVID. They're going to remember how they missed 2 years of school, how they had to wear a mask during those formative years when they had to look at a teacher in the face and they had to be able to tell what other kids were saying or doing. They're going to remember how they were locked out of school for 2 years and they had to sit at home, and how mom, still had to go to work, but they had to sit at home. They're going to remember this stuff. They're not going to forget it because they were formative years of their life. And that's where, again, I think this is just, I mean, we're going to be in a new era.
I agree
soon.
with you, but I also think that just like, okay, so there are now like probably thousands of content creators with, audiences over, let's say 100,000 on the various platforms. Those people, like, here's what I've seen that they care about. They care about the platforms reaching out to them and making them feel special. They care about being famous. And so the reason why journalists like Taylor Lorenz got anywhere near those people is because when those people get featured on mainstream media, New York Times, I have a client that is going to be featured on Nora O'Donnell, I think is her name, on NBC. That brings them to mainstream consciousness and basically helps them make money and also become like real celebrities. And I think that the reason why people got so into like the Johnny Depp thing is because it was like something like their own ability to connect the dots and expose things and things like that. Like you have to get them engaged in a way that they actually care. I don't ever even necessarily like, even there was a whole time where they were all talking about the Menendez brothers and they brought that sort of back to life because they were digging into this stuff. I don't disagree that people are going to remember all these things that happened in the last 2 years, but I also think that like young people are just not that concerned about like 5 years from now as they are concerned as like what's happening like tomorrow.
But you're talking about like the Johnny Depp trial. I mean, here's the other thing that's changed a lot too, is that people no longer trust the 3-minute sound bites that they get from the news media. They want to see the long form interview of everything the person said, not just what the news agency picked what soundbite they picked. People want to see the whole interview, which to me is the most satisfying thing as a journalist to see, because it's like, okay, people want to be very informed. I'm all for that.
Well, and I think what really drives people is inspiration. And if people can, what's it called? If they can take in Elon's message and if this stuff gets reported to young people, I think they might start to think, well, why is Elon Musk doing this? This is somebody that is inspiring. He's doing all the stuff with Tesla and even Neuralink and sending stuff to space and somebody that you could potentially, I'm sure like a lot of people look up to Elon Musk. Um, why is he exposing this stuff? And he's doing it in like a nonpartisan way. He just wants to get the truth out there. I think young people are very virtuous. Like they want the right thing to happen. What is the right thing? Maybe once they get all the information, they'll be able to figure out what side of the aisle they want to be on in terms of what is the right thing to do.
Well, I completely agree with that. And I think that's a big influence that Elon's going to have, because he's this mythical figure to people. He's the next Steve Jobs. This voice out there who's bringing innovation, who has these ideas, who is the everyman that's just like you and me with a bajillion fucking dollars. I think he's really going to be the influence that turns the minds of young people to political issues, to things like this. Okay, fine. It's Twitter drama, but it's Twitter drama about a very important subject. And let me clear off 5 super chats here that have been waiting for a bit, and then we can talk a little bit more about what happened today. Rachel the Riveter says Fahrenheit 451 was originally published in Playboy, so just Rolling Stone. Dune started out as a serial in Omni magazine. Magazines are awesome things, and they do a lot of good, and there are a lot of great journalism that goes on in just my magazines. During 1804, the moment anyone in government or a political campaign is cooperating with Twitter, it becomes an undisclosed campaign contribution. Here for the Truth says Ari looks like she's talking into her favorite round brush. Lol.
No, I need to get a thing. And somebody said that my thing is, I think I need to buy a new cord too. So if you hear me like, I'm going on mute just in case when I'm not talking.
Natasha says, I want to hear Branca's take. Invite him on. Well, if this was about a self-defense shooting, he would be here. Yeah. But not today. We hung out together a couple nights ago. Dean, for Farron, someone may want to get in touch with Steph. She flew back from Argentina and skipped Greece to go to DC tonight and is meeting with Elon Musk and others tomorrow. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Well, that's what Dean says. Well, that's where we now today. This thing that happened today, we talked about it a little bit a minute ago. There was a lot of repeating. There was a lot of inartfully asked questions, and 95% of it was people talking about themselves in the questions. But there were some good things that were brought up. What were some of the big takeaways? I
do want to add that because I hopped into another Twitter Spaces that Ian and Steven started right after that huge room, and we were experiencing glitches, and there was only like 600 people in there. So I do agree that it seemed like a little bit of a shit show at one point, but I do think they were experiencing a lot of technical glitches in the sense that there was some really prominent people, I think, that had their hands up or that wanted to come into the space, and the host actually couldn't see their hands up. So, I think that Twitter has some technical things to figure out with Spaces, and even Elon said that there's just so much that needs to get fixed from a like programmers, all those technical people before anything else can be done.
Well, one of those people that had their hands up that didn't get their question was Farron.
Oh, right. Oh, so actually, really quick there, I think there might have been 2 that you might have missed here. Hang on 1 second. Okay. This is where I think you have the most important 2 tweets of the entire thread, that they were not numbered.
Yeah, okay? I didn't see these.
So the first one that came in first, I'll read in order of the tweet. An amazing subplot of the Twitter Hunter Biden laptop affair was how much was done without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, and how long it took for the situation to get, quote, unfucked, as one employee put it, even after Dorsey jumped in. But by far, I think the most important tweet of the entire evening. There are multiple instances in the files of Dorsey intervening to question suspensions, and other moderation actions for accounts across the political spectrum. One of the shortest tweets of the night, but has two major meanings. One, Dorsey did not know, because if he did, why would he be asking about these suspensions and why certain people were suspended? And you also see that echoed in the Joe Rogan podcast with the JJ, where she's like basically his handler as his lawyer. Two, right now, Republicans are having a field day with this and they love it. Yes, great. However, there are other accounts now. Look at across the political spectrum, folks. When we find out which Democrats were banned or hidden, when we find out progressives, Bernie Sanders supporters, he's talking about from 2016 on here. Matt Taibbi, again, is going through thousands of emails. You're going to start seeing people on the other political side getting pissed. I guarantee you that. Maybe not your elite Democrats, because obviously they were the ones in control here, but I'm talking specifically your Bernie Sanders supporters, your progressive caucus, except, the ones that have been bought by AOC. You're going to start seeing other people. The other thing that came out today during the Twitter space was the hashtag of free Julian Assange or free Assange. That one was brought down. And that was the one question that I wanted to ask is let me zoom out here for a second. This was a thing that I found when I was researching the JJ. As you can see on the far left, this is the question that I was going to ask. Seen with Prime Minister of New Zealand after talking about, quote, Twitter safety. Folks, Twitter files didn't just happen in the United States. The more emails we see, the more we'll begin to see this is potentially happening worldwide. And then Alyssa Clip she texted me this.
That was epic. This was epic what you shared.
And so we published.
And so this is just one of her little backtracking stories that this bitch is going to have to answer for.
Just to add on to what Jack's saying, we actually are very, very transparent about this. So we publish a transparency report every 6 months that details every single request that we get from every government around the world and the content that they ask us to remove. And we post that to an independent third-party site. So you could go right now and look and see every single request that comes from the Pakistani government and what content they're trying to remove from Pakistan.
Okay, bitch. So that's exactly what I did. And guess what? Where is it? Hang on. Let me. Did
anybody notice a little duper's delight in there in her in her little her body language where she's like smiling? Either she's like genuinely proud of this thing or it's complete BS, and she's like, haha, I'm tricking everyone.
Exactly. And hang on, I'm trying to find the exact website here. I had it.
While you do that, I'll clear two super chat. Well, one super chat and one comment. I recommend everyone look into Ian more. Check out the video the Quartering recently posted on Twitter about him. Oh, thank God I can super chat again. Well, thank God you can super chat again too, Steve, and I thank you for it.
So the Quartering doesn't seem to like Ian. I feel like, I don't know, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
They must have some type of rift going on.
And Matthew Sod says, the Godfather didn't order his people to kill. He hired people who knew what to do. He didn't have to say the words. Same with Dorky. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, to say he didn't know is probably a legitimate thing. And it may have been crafted so he didn't know. But when you turn responsibility for an entire thing over to one person, that power can get to them and they can overstep the bounds that you may have had in mind when you assigned them to take care of it. And then you can be genuinely surprised when you realize how fucked they actually made you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now here is the transparency website. Oh shoot, hang on. I just realized it's on a different tab.
I was just going to say too, like what's interesting is sort of the how these people that worked at Twitter sort of anointed themselves as the purveyors of justice, and like Yoel Roth and Vijaya. Like imagine if you were Jack and like this is that whole, in my opinion, that whole like this is how people like Taylor Lorenz think. They think that they're so narcissistic that they're like they do whatever they want. And until they do something that somebody else calls them out on, which most people are too afraid to call those people out. Like they have so much power that people are afraid to call them out. And then ultimately they take over and they make these decisions that they may not have even necessarily been appointed to make.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And speaking of calling out, I do have to make one comment here. Dean says legal vices. Why would you say Dean said? You have no idea, do you? No, I know Steph very well. I know I said Dean said because you said she was skipping here and going there and meeting with Elon tomorrow. And Farron asked the question, really? And I said, well, that's what Dean said. Mm-hmm. That's why I said that's what Dean said, because that's literally what you said, Dean. Don't be creating drama where no drama exists.
Yeah. Exactly. No drama here. So here's the website, the third party website. Now, mind you, it's transparency.twitter.com. When you say a third party, I'm assuming that it has nothing to do with Twitter. Now, and this is the thing that I keep questioning on. Like when they say third party, that to me seems something that has nothing to do with Twitter, but transparency.twitter.com. I don't know.
Yeah, third party would mean has absolutely nothing to do with Twitter in any way, shape, or form, remotely, or even within any number of degrees of separation. That's what it means to me.
And that's what I feel about it too. But again, transparency.twitter.com. Mm-hmm. And many are asking.
So are all those things in there? The Biden stuff?
No. This was the website that she was saying where you can look up Pakistan, you can look up all of these other countries and what they've asked to do and whatnot, because they're so transparent.
Right. I'm saying, wasn't she saying that, like, so wouldn't the Biden stuff be in there because the country was Biden asking?
I'm not sure.
What was she saying?
I'm not seeing it.
What did she mean
right now?
I guess this is what they were asking for Twitter to do. I'm just like, because that's what I got out of it, is that these were what other countries were asking Twitter to do. In what sense?
Or no. Or either it was other countries, and how they were enforcing certain things within other countries and their Twitter. Okay. So that's the thing that's really interesting. But I mean, and I see a lot of people in the chat have been asking, do you think it's a good idea that Elon had a journalist release this? And my answer to that is, that's the only way to do it. Elon Musk, again, when you have the Edward Snowden drop and Glenn Greenwald is the one who really combed through everything and organized it to a way that the audience can understand. That's a journalist's job, is to look and see what the information is and how to deliver it to the audience. If Elon Musk were to release this, there would be a lot of things that either would get lost or things wouldn't make sense. Whereas, if Matt Taibbi's writing style and the way that he reports things, it's very thorough, extremely, thought through. And I think it's truthfully the only way, because this now gets the focus off of Elon, number one. Number two, it's delivered by somebody that knows how to speak to an audience. And that's going to be where you're going to get the most viable information out there, and people are going to be able to digest it and understand it completely versus just a hodgepodge of just tweets. So, what
are we looking forward? What are we looking forward in the second dump? What are we looking? Oh, you haven't got your question.
And by the way, Elon said that he didn't spend that much time going through it, that he gave access to Matt Taibbi, and I honestly believe him. It's pretty funny because even in the Twitter Spaces, they asked him to do that poll that he posted about should Julian Assange and should they be pardoned, and he agreed to it in the moment on the space. He said he was on a plane. So what's kind of interesting about it is that Elon's not going to some PR expert or potentially even to his lawyers and saying, hey, is it okay if I tweet this poll? I mean, he's really operating in a way that I think he feels is best, which, most CEOs and most like these people in power are typically not doing it that way. They're asking, a dozen people basically what they should be doing, and Elon doesn't seem to be doing that.
Yeah, and also somebody had mentioned as well that, by the way, this is the latest Matt Taibbi tweet, because every journalist is dunking on him. And when I say journalist, I mean like mainstream media person. Looking forward to going through all the tweets complaining about PR for the richest man on earth and seeing how many of them have run stories for anonymous sources at the FBI, CIA, Pentagon.
Yes,
White House,
I didn't see
etc.
that. That is awesome that
Yeah.
you wrote that.
I mean, Matt, and a lot of people are like, oh God, is Matt Taibbi okay? Matt Taibbi doesn't give a shit. Like he is very much with Glenn Greenwald, like, come at me. Like, I don't care. And that's where I think him choosing him to be kind of this next generation Glenn Greenwald is super badass. Matt Taibbi deserves all of it. And also, as somebody mentioned as well, Elon even said in his meeting that he didn't go through all the emails, that he just gave them to Matt Taibbi and Barry White, or not, yeah, Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss, and was just like, here, you report it. So my question though, like I said, like was going to be about the JJ and, you know, whether or not, you know, she assisted in the censorship of a number of people, for example, our neighbors to the north, Canada, when it comes to the trucker protest. They had their bank accounts frozen. They were locked out of their Twitter accounts. They were locked out of posting anything on social media in Canada. How much did Twitter have a hand in that, at least on the Twitter spectrum? Facebook, we still don't know. But that was my question is, do you know how much they not only did this in our own country, but in other countries and helped assist getting certain narratives put out in other countries? But,
yeah, you're right. And I'm sorry, but like in my opinion, they're doing this across Facebook, Instagram, the other platforms. And it's like, what do you think the New York Times is doing? What do you think the Washington Post is doing? You don't think that these things are getting killed? I mean, it might not be as directly, but it's like someone's editor saying, no, you can't write about this.
Yeah. And like somebody asked, you know,
media.
Matthew in the chat asked, please explain, you know, how this is comparable to Glenn Greenwald and the Edward Snowden drop. And yes, one is a government entity and the spying on the American people unlawfully via the Patriot Act. Totally understand why you're saying, you know, what I'm saying though, is it has remnants of the same idea of a major conglomerate that literally by an algorithm can influence the minds and potentially influence votes as well. And showing how there was a bias in that media company. Again, definitely different from the government, totally understand. But what I'm saying though, is that it's the fact that you have the head of it, or, you know, or a whistleblower, a la Elon here with all these emails, giving it to a journalist and a journalist combing through it and a journalist releasing it. It's the same type of play, just a different actors, if that makes sense. But yes, I mean, the Snowden drop was way fucking worse. I mean, Snowden was exiled or basically is, you know, living in Russia now because he can't come back here, which was the one issue that I had with Trump. I thought that he should have pardoned Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. But when he didn't, that kind of made me very angry, but no, so I just wanted to answer that.
By the way, did you guys see James Woods go crazy on Tucker Carlson last night? That was so funny.
Unhinged.
Well, something I love James Woods. We were talking about him at the beginning. The one thing I do like, and it's going to be fun to see, is because the very first celebrity link was about banning him from Twitter. Was about blocking him from Twitter. I don't know if either of you noticed that. From the it was like number 3 on the list. It was the very first thing.
Did you see the tweet that he tweeted that like created that whole thing? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of this Twitter file drop, let's see if we can bring it up here. Hang on. Where'd we go? Where are we at here? Scroll down past. Here we go. This thread. We go down to the thread. this here, I grabbed the first one under SI. Defer to safety on the high profile second one. The second one is real James Woods account.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if this is the one that they were talking about, but it was James Woods was trending last night, and they showed the tweet that he had posted, which was like basically a video or a screenshot of Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
I think naked, looking at a
yeah.
Something about his toes. I forget what it was. It was so funny. Yeah. I don't know much about James Woods. What's his story? Oh, go ahead.
He's just a great actor, and he's right wing, hardcore right wing, and he's James Wood has announced a lawsuit against Twitter and Democrats for censoring him about Hunter Biden. He claims his career went downhill after tweeting about Hunter Biden. So it's on.
James Wood, if you've seen Scary Movie 2, which we did air it here, and we got on The Unexplained. He plays the priest, those enchiladas.
I haven't seen it in so long.
Oh God, it's so
I gotta
good.
watch it.
But no, yeah, I mean, very prominent actor. Has come out in the last couple of years. We started very far left and has slowly moved over to the right, as we see with a lot of people. And that's one of the comments that you do see from the left, is people are like, oh, all of these people that start on the left move to the right. And it's strictly because they get more money offers and they think that there's more money in the Republican Party. And it's like, they're out of work. They can't get work. Like, what do you mean they're going to get money?
When it comes to politics too, it's like, I wonder if the Democrats understand that by shutting information down and simply not acknowledging things that most people would consider just like, having a rational thought, they're pushing people away from their own party that either weren't political to begin with, or are noticing the hypocrisy from the other side, and they're like, I don't want to be a part of this.
I will say the only thing that I will correct you on, because I do know a number of Democrats that are seeing this and they're like, this is messed up. And I would say they're more the classical liberal Democrats. I would say your Democratic elite, to be more specific, if that makes sense. Because I think like regular, like just the Democratic elite. And you also have Republican elite too. And I think there's going to be drops on about the Republican elite as well, that maybe they were trying to buy some stuff with Twitter, but there's just kind of maybe went unanswered or whatever. I mean, we did see Kayleigh McEnany's name brought up. I'm waiting for Jen Psaki's name will come up.
Well, when you look at all the people that, for example, are saying, or were saying, Trump is crazy, the election is not stolen, unfortunately, they may have been saying that and people would believe them. But now when you see this, even somebody that's not political is like, well, there is a very good chance that the election was stolen from him. And so now you have to agree with Donald Trump, which a lot of people don't want to do that. But if you're rational, you're thinking, well, actually maybe he wasn't wrong. And that opens up another can of worms.
Yeah. And I also think too that, when it comes down to this whole free speech concept, the fact that they're sitting there and you can see the elitism where they say, well, free speech is an absolute. That is a very scary sentiment to see somebody just like throw out in an email, which also goes to show how much control and how much of an impact Twitter has in formulating the opinions in the minds of voters. I mean, folks, right now, if you want to look at the political makeup, we have the most independent voters that this country has ever seen, ever in the history of the United States. And when you have people leaving the Democratic Party, choosing to go independent, people leaving the Republican Party, choosing to go independent, a lot of it, I think, is because people don't want to do straight down the ballot voting, or people just don't want to say whether they're Democrat or Republican. I think it's more the latter. But when you have a lot of this happening, and you have these independent minds that are starting to think for themselves, you go on social media and you have an algorithm there. That can do heavy convincing for people. And the Hunter Biden story definitely could have convinced a lot of people to say, whoa, Joe's got a lot of weird ties to shit. His son was doing a lot of, the big guy and, I can get you this and, getting diamonds from China. A lot of people would have looked at that as, him being compromised. And so again, the fact that they were just free speech is an absolute, like just a throwaway sentence that's scary. That's scary.
There's a lot of scary things about so many levels of this.
Elon tweeted about a minute ago that they need about another day or so.
Okay, hang on. Let me go to Elon here really quick. I'll pull it up here because I can see Legal Vices. You're busy, so if you need help or anything.
See, I did my updated here.
I'm sorry, I keep I'm trying to eat my dinner. I literally haven't eaten anything all day. I've been
just a note to thank advertisers. SBF was a league. I haven't seen that.
It was see it right there. Yeah, it looks like he's a reply to his initial thing about
about tomorrow. Looks like we'll need another day or so. Yeah. Okay.
I have a girlfriend who worked at a pretty high works at a pretty high up position for Elon at Tesla. And she was saying how he would come into the office at like a whim and be like, this needs to be done by tomorrow. And like, everybody would be like, okay, stop what you're doing. This is what he wants to do. So it does seem sort of in his realm to be like, hey, this is going to be done tomorrow. And then probably people are like, hey dude, we need like a hot second to make sure this is done correctly.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Jeff, you could probably speak to this. Obviously, you being of a legal mind here. I'm sure there's a lot of things that, like for example, like journalists, we can write whatever the hell we want, obviously. However, at the end of the day, there are also things that we need to check through a legal team. What do you think some of the legalities would be that they would have to possibly look into or, possibly have to circumvent in all of this?
I don't know because I mean, at worst or at best, depending how you look at it, this all might fall well within a whistleblower kind of situation.
Yeah.
So having to use that law.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And I guess at the end of the day, it boils down to, I don't think Elon cares. He has enough money to buy lawyers to defend him until the end of time. But I mean, when you're talking about releasing private emails, maybe these emails weren't received in the most normal or legal of channels.
Well, I wonder if some of these people are going to cry as well. Well, I think already one of them, what was the guy that was the one that suppressed the information? He was the head of safety or whatever. Yoel.
Oh, Yoth.
Yeah, he was. I think he was on Mastodon, basically saying, "How can you name us? Essentially, you're putting us in danger." I wonder if any of those people will end up trying to sue.
Oh, you mean like when CNN put Nicholas Sandmann in danger by reporting a false story about how he was mocking a Native American Indian and putting him in danger, or like Kyle Rittenhouse when they called him a white supremacist and said that he was just around shooting people, and how the kid actually had to go into hiding. Like that kind of danger are you talking about? That kind?
Kind.
Yeah.
But
kind.
Sorry, everyone's like Farron's in bitch mode tonight. I know Matt Taibbi, not like personally, but I know him from a friend of a friend. And it just angers me so much that like these journalists out here are like, oh wow, you're the new PR guy. It's like, do you realize this is our modern day Watergate? Yes, it might not be to the
do you think it will
equivalent. It's
well, that's why they're so salty.
It's not to the equivalent of a president resigning per se. However, like this shows like a major, like social media is huge now.
Yeah.
And it's corrupt as
okay,
shit. It's
Farron, if they can prove that 10% was going to the big guy and that was Joe Biden, that is a problem, isn't it? I mean, I don't know anything. I'm not an attorney. It sounds like a problem to me.
I guarantee you people would have changed their votes.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. It's interfering with an election, at least if you're not. Especially, I mean, this is some seriously damning information where they're saying we don't know whether this is hacked information or whether it was legally obtained legitimate news, but we're going to treat it like it violates policy and block it from our site. That
Legally
almost comes into the range.
If they get in, if somebody sues the administration for how they may have interfered, would they be potentially able to then get information about Facebook and some of the other places based off of I guess like the whole thing as the thing as a whole, or no?
From other places, I mean, Twitter would, in a lawsuit, Twitter would probably have to cough up a lot of documents in their discovery. But as far as getting into other companies that aren't part of an action involving Twitter, most likely not. I mean, it would be exceptionally difficult.
I wonder, could the New York Post do something, since they were suppressed, I guess, across all platforms for the Hunter Biden story, or not really, because ultimately it's a private company and they decide blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, anybody can sue anybody for anything. Whether it goes to trial or not, or whether you get a favorable verdict is another thing. But they could file a lawsuit against Twitter and seek discovery of all of these documents. And I mean, whether they get them or how far it goes would be up to the courts. But yeah, they can. And that's what James Woods looks like he's doing.
Well, also to Farron's point, I was actually just looking up the Sandman case, and it looks like the New York Times and some of the other places that he sued, they did a default judgment, and ultimately
they can't legally talk about it.
No, they did a default. They did some settlements, but they also did a default judgment that they lost. That they have to go and appeal. I think
because CNN, I know that they came to a what should we call it? They came to a negotiation that he cannot talk about, but they're saying he got between 18 to 25 million.
Yeah, but I think there was 4 other publications, 4 or 5 other places that they went through, and the judge basically, I don't know if he dismissed it. It was like a default judgment. I just think that people need to understand how big of a problem it is that when people file these lawsuits against major media companies, they don't move forward. They can't even get to the point where it's
literally David versus Goliath.
They're literally, yes. And even like Project Veritas, who I think got the ability to ask for discovery, they're still trying to block it and delay it and all these things. And that
can take years.
And if it's true that the government is so intertwined with the media, if there, I hate to say it, but if there are liberal judges that understand this, that it's possible that they're blocking those abilities to move forward because of that very thing. And it's really, really concerning, I think. And we need to put more emphasis on that as just as a country, in order, how is it possible that since the 1960s, we haven't had discovery from the New York Times or whatever? It's absurd.
And there's so many entities. For example, misconstrued. Thank you so much again for bringing this up, because this is my next topic that I'm going to talk about on my channel. Is that the Pentagon failed its 5th audit, and nothing's going to be done. And they have failed over and over and over again. And mind you, the mainstream media, including Fox, all my Fox News lovers, they're all paid off by the defense industry. Why do you think, for example, Phil Donahue was fired by MSNBC when he said, hey, we shouldn't be going into Iraq? This is ridiculous. There's no weapons of mass destruction there. We even know this. He was immediately fired because they're paid by the defense industry to promote war, because that's how this country makes money. And that's where you see government entities, media, and now social media.
That was the very first comment
zero
I made.
Consequences.
I mean, that was the very first comment that I made when we started this show, is when you start letting advertisers into anything, you lose control. The advertisers tell you what you can say, what you can't say, how you can say it. Otherwise, they pull the money that you desperately need. And they will sacrifice you if you get between them and their big piles of money.
And you know who warned of that?
Farron did.
Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite said
famous comment.
Walter Cronkite said the minute that you let advertisers in, the news is dead, or journalism is dead.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's true. You know, Walter Cronkite, who was, mind you, a closet socialist. A lot of people don't know, which is why he held both sides accountable, which, hey, I'm for it. But I mean, you know, one of the guys that was on the ground in Vietnam and saw all the corruption and stuff that was going there. I mean, even Edward R. Murrow, who was on the ground in World War II, saw a lot of corruption going on there. I mean, these are those kinds of people that we need. And you just don't have journalism like that anymore because you can't afford it.
Well, I've got about 20 minutes here, so I want to get on to Balenciaga for just a minute. Anything else we want to say to bring up here in regards to Elon Musk, in view of the fact that the big drop number 2 is not happening today? Elon, you suck. Farron, your last comments on the Elon Musk and Twitter.
Now you have content for tomorrow.
Yeah.
The only thing that I will say is yes, I applaud Elon for what he's doing, but Elon Musk is not the Jesus Christ savior of free speech here, because, you know, you never know if something were to come out about Tesla. We don't know about what he would do with that or what have you. I think it's great what he's doing, but this isn't a full-on savior of free speech, because there's still a lot of proof that needs to happen. But again, though, I do applaud him because he's been getting a lot of shit. And he's stayed quiet, and he's just letting Matt Taibbi do all the honest journalistic reporting that he is.
Something tells me that Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss are going to go deep, like not just on Hunter Biden. I feel like there's so many other bombshells.
I do know one of the big things is they're going to talk about the Brazil election. I do know that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. I hope that's what they talk about in drop 2. Ari, what's your Twitter takeaway from the past 36 hours?
I mean, I just feel like I think Farron's right that he's not some type of savior, but I think people should be watching him, and I think he's a smart guy, and I don't know, we'll see what happens. It sounds like they've got a long way to go though before Twitter ultimately changes in big, you know, Twitter isn't like the Twitter you see today. A year from now is going to be so different and such a big opportunity for people. But we need to wait and see. Mm-hmm. But it is pretty, it's pretty cool to see what he's done in a month. Like, not to, you know, imp over him, but it's like, dude, what the hell's everybody been doing for 10 years or however
And
long?
that's the thing is like the promises made, promises kept kind of a person, very much how Trump was in the beginning of his presidency. I applaud it. I like people that follow through with what they're going to say.
Well, my takeaway is not, I mean, it's not really my takeaway from this. It's just sort of a confirmation of what I've always said about Elon Musk. He is a bored bajillionaire man-child who's got nothing. He's a professional shit stirrer, and he does it exceptionally well. Someone pisses you off, you buy their fucking company. He does things like that. He's Richie Rich in real life. Yeah. He's got nothing but time on his hands, nothing but shit to stir in various pots, and he's doing it, and it's a much needed thing. This is a pot that is a pot of shit that needs to be stirred.
And I'll tell you this, you know, the news company that I work for now, Newsnet Media, was bought by the billionaire who started 5 Hour Energy. And he basically bought it because he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm sick of the mainstream media and I'm tired of paying for advertising. Bought a small news station and now has made it national. And that's why I'm in DC again to help, you know, start the DC bureau. But I am not told what I can and cannot report on. I literally walk into my editorial meetings and it's like, I'm doing this. And they're like, okay. And you know what? It's the billionaires, which sucks. But it's the billionaires that are going to say, I can buy this shit out and make it like great again. You know, make it to what it was again.
And by the way,
Steph,
like,
welcome to chat, Steph. We were just talking about you a little while ago. Elon wants transparency and is smart. He wants transparency and he is very smart. And I think this is as I was saying, is a much needed thing he's doing to stir this particular pot of shit, because you know, he's not an idiot. People saying he doesn't release his IQ. IQ is not an indication of how smart or dumb you are. It's how well you take the IQ test.
And by the way, like as a human being, like he's not a perfect guy. Like go follow Justine Musk, his first wife. Go listen to her TED Talk, or I think she did 2 TED Talks. Like, is he a good partner? Is he someone that you want to be married to? My opinion, probably not. But is he doing? You have to look at what he's doing and how it's impacting.
Well, we've got we've got a few things here. Let's try that again. We rewind. Okay, we've got a
nice.
We've got to we got a few super chats to get out of the way, and then dive into Balenciaga for 10 minutes. So prepare your knives for that one. Twisted Puppet says Ian Miles Jung is notorious for anti-Gamergate. I did not know he was associated with Gamergate. The Apostle Steve, time to grab some drinks and relax after a long week. Catch you later, Jeff. You're long gone by now, but hey, talk to you later, Apostle Steve, and I'm glad you get to super chat again because your super chats are awesome and much appreciated. Baldo Gagger 4000, Arizona SOS Hobbs. Com director pulled tweets. I'm sure a lot of people have pulled tweets. And there's a reason
why when Elon bought Twitter that Vijay was seen crying coming out of meetings.
I'm sorry you made $17 million.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for you, lady.
Wipe away those tears with your money.
Ladybug Lisa says
she knew what was coming. She knew what was coming.
The problem conservatives have is they focus on Hunter's drug-fueled behavior rather than any link to then candidate Biden. True. And the U word too that ends in crane. I voted blue, says Ladybug Lisa, and I know no one would change their and no one who would change their vote. I don't know if you started coming out with some of that stuff that's on that before the election. I think it would have swayed a few votes. Emu Warrior says Elon maritime for tomorrow. If Elon had anything to do with Maritime Monday, I would love to do something about it. And Steph, thank you so much, Steph, for the super chat. Legal Vice is talking about me. Oh no. Yeah, you need to tell Dean that I know you. He, for some reason, he doesn't believe that. But anywho, Balenciaga. Wow. They've gone off the rails a little bit, haven't they? There was a new development a few hours ago with them. For those of you that don't know, they were producing what essentially amounted to child pornography, essentially, with the bondage bears and little children in bed and carrying these creepy things around with literal court judgment documents dealing with the production and proliferation of child pornography on sitting on a table during all this photo shit. It's some deep, dark shit. And what they did is they tried to say, oh, it was out of our hands. So they sued the agency, the ad agency that made these ads, saying that they had nothing to do with it. And that was where we left off.
The photographer was caught doing child porn before, right? Like,
oh, did not know that. That's nice.
Like photographing children naked. Now, here's the one question that I do have from a legal standpoint: is these children, because they're talking about, criminal charges should be filed. They're children that are fully clothed, that are with pornographic objects. Does that constitute as child porn? In a legality sense? I'm not saying that I am for it. I'm saying, like, in a court of law, could that pass, do you think?
No, but
and that's what I was worried about.
Yeah, the specter is there. But what the interesting thing is when they were throwing this all off, and they
filed a lawsuit.
What was that?
They filed a lawsuit against the agency. Correct.
They filed the lawsuit against the agency.
Which turned out to be a big nothing burger, right?
That's the story. That's the thing. Because there's nobody in their fucking right mind that believes that an agency is going to take pictures and publish them to the world without getting the principal's preview and comment. And what came out was Balenciaga was saying they had nothing to do with it. It was just all these guys. The guy said, bullshit. You had your reps there that were directing this. We don't do shit that you don't tell us to do. You tell us how to stage things. You tell us how to do things. Your guy was there, and they dropped the lawsuit.
Jeff, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
When you do your shows, about how many emails do you get a week from people giving you either flack or praise about any of your streams?
Quite a few.
Exactly. And you're going to tell me that nobody gave Balenciaga anything when it came down to this photo shoot? Not one like, hey, I don't know if I like this, or, mind you, with the hundreds of people that were involved in this photo shoot, you broadcast to hundreds of people a week, or thousands of people a week, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And you get emails, and not one email was given to any of these people.
Guys, and just from the experience of managing influencer campaigns and being on set at some of these like brand the photo shoots and stuff, there's so many levels of approval, and especially one of the I think most obvious examples of what happened is you look at the tape that was printed where Balenciaga is spelled wrong. It's spelled Baal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
whatever.
like Bale. Yeah.
There's no way that would not have had to been approved, because somebody would have had to said, why is this spelled wrong? And somebody would have had to give an explanation for that. This is what I think. I think that brands and Hollywood, they are so used to manipulating the media. I think that they thought, well, we know that this lawsuit may not have any legs, but we're going to file it anyway, so that there's a big news story saying Balenciaga is suing la la la, and then hopefully nobody's going to follow up with the next story that says the lawsuit got dropped or whatever. These people are really, really smart at manipulating the media.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Balenciaga is run by a bunch of Satanists, but they know if they do shit like that, it creates this type of a media storm. But now they've dropped they said the brand has issued an updated statement outlining an action plan, including dropping a $25 million lawsuit that many news outlets reported as a lawsuit that was just not going to win in any realm. And they were absolutely correct. So Balenciaga is taking action following an ongoing crisis for two controversial campaigns that were accused of including imagery of child sexual abuse and pornography. So now they've essentially dropped that because, because as I said, they were immediately confronted with the ad agency people saying, "Oh hell no, they were in charge of everything. They ran everything. It was their project." And as soon as that happens, because these agencies have to protect themselves, because if people start thinking that the ad agency is just going to make whatever they want and throw it out there on the internet, they're going to lose every one of their clients.
Can I drop a crazy bomb on you for
Drop a crazy bomb.
That's literally going to get every guy in the chat's little peen to curl up into his stomach. Do you know who the first people were to uncover CP and all that was going on with all of it and how horrible it was?
Mm-hmm.
The feminist movement.
Oh God, here we go. But yeah, if you look at history, it was the feminism movement, very early stages of feminism that actually brought this to light. They also brought to light child labor laws with FDR.
I thought you were about to start doing ASMR or something.
I know, right?
She's like, do you know? Okay, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And I get nobody cares, Farron. Well, you should care because it's history, number one. And number two, the fact that it was women that did it, I think speaks volumes. Because in the gay community, let's be honest, Milo Yiannopoulos, he was the one that was like, oh no, it's okay, it's fine. That's another day for
don't
another
even
stream.
Get me started on
That's another day
Milo.
for another
I'm so
stream. But yes,
yeah,
Mhm.
no, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and nobody's alt but mine. It's false. No, read your history, brother. Read a book.
Today, another sort of interesting little bit was that Rose McGowan was texting me while she was in the stream listening to.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
And she said, "This is what she said." She said, Dorsey. Okay. Sorry. Okay. It says this had over 10 million views on ABC Nightline. The bad guys scrubbed it. She sent me a video. I'll tweet it in a bit. And she said, then journalist Glenn Greenwald posted to his account to save it. She's like, Dorsey deactivated my account 4 days after I outed the loser monster, that's Harvey Weinstein. And so she said, according to according to Rose, Dorsey deactivated my account 4 days after I outed Harvey Weinstein. Then women worldwide boycotted Twitter in protest. Biggest stock loss in Twitter history. Then I got reinstated, but I was shadow banned. And when I went after Biden and the Clintons, the shadow ban became not fun. Interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a few super chats here before we wrap up. Steph, is that legal advice? Says that's all I get for $50. Oh, you get a lot more than that for $50, but I only had $50 after the stream.
Rawr.
Yeah. SASP. Pff. Heads up, there is a heads. Punctuation helps me read these things, people. Heads up, there is a Twitter document on Viva Barnes Law Locals about Katie Hobbs having accounts banned after the 2020 election. Viva's smart. We like Viva. It's not gay if it's a three-way. Says, is this considered conspiracy corner? Could be. Today could be a unexplained deal.
What's a conspiracy? Like 3 people believe it, like being in on something?
Yeah, pretty much. IWD says the Balenciaga stuff vindicates the satanic panic people. Between that and the groomer stuff, the religious right is historically vindicated. That's one way of looking at it, definitely. And also, it's not gay if it's a three-way. Says, what in the Pizzagate hell is this?
I get it.
Well, hate to cut it short, but I do have a 2-minute from now hard exit on all of this. You guys are so awesome.
Can I end it on something amazing? Can I end it on something amazing?
I'm scared when you say things like that.
No, I promise you this is amazing. This guy is a news anchor, was told by his producers to stop talking. You can see he rips his what's called IFB out of his ear. If you share my screen, it is the best rant that I think can literally sum up everything in this whole Balenciaga movement and speaks for all of us.
Yeah.
Share the screen.
I'm working on it.
There we go.
There.
You ready?
And go.
And
I couldn't find my cursor.
No, you're fine. 3, 2, 1.
We should cut ties. Where's the outrage? I'm going to go off for a minute here because where is the outrage? It's been a week and a half. And now we're doing this story. I get it. Thanksgiving was happening and all that. But they tried to hide behind that, right? Maybe this will make it through the news cycle. No, it's not. Okay. Adidas didn't cut ties 48 hours after Kanye did his whole thing, right? And they got lambasted for not speaking out against anti-Semitism. This is a week and a half and nobody seems to care that there's little kids involved in this. I can't speak what it's like to be a black man, right? I can't speak what it's like to be a Jewish woman, but I can speak what it's like to be a father of 2 young boys. And that this type of behavior, when I worked at CBS.com out of a little closet my first show, I was like, I'm going to say this and wear a blue shirt. I got 49 emails saying, maybe wear a purple shirt and maybe don't say this here. Don't tell me this slipped through the cracks when you're getting a court case that features child pornography. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. Jeopardy's got to flip their whole production because of one person said something, but they wanted to be woke and do all that. How many other examples are there? 10, 20, 30, 40 years we're going back to cancel people? But this slips through the cracks. It's outrageous. And that people aren't outraged and skipping work with their posters and going to the courthouse or going to Balenciaga and stars aren't wiping their Instagram and social media with all their Balenciaga gear is disgusting in itself. Don't you tell me, Hollywood, how to live my life or you want me canceled or because you produce something. You're going to go around because Balenciaga pays you $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. Kim Kardashian, shame on you. You're a billionaire. You don't need this company. They need you. And for you to take a week and a half to come to a conclusion, shame on you.
Well, she claims, I agree with that.
Boom.
Wow.
Yes.
That's it.
And also follow the money trail. Like the guy that owns the parent company of Balenciaga is married to Salma Hayek. He owns Christie's. There's all these people in Hollywood have all these different connections and nobody wants to piss off their friend that could later do them a favor or whatever. If somebody had some balls, even Kanye is standing by Balenciaga. So I'm sorry. But you
on the Alex Jones show.
You won't even know all the connections that are the reason why people are keeping their mouths shut. I'm sorry, but if I felt like you were Farron, if you did something that was blatantly promoting explicit images of children, I would say I like Farron. I think she messed up, and I don't stand with her. I'm sorry, but that's just right?
Especially if I was giving you money to promote me,
right,
Ari.
right.
Especially that. And again, like, so, you know, somebody said like, oh, he's kind of dumb though on the show. I don't care. I love what he said, where he's like, I'm not a Jewish woman. I'm not a black man. You know what I am? I'm a father of 2 little boys. And that's where, you know, no matter who you are, if you have kids, if you have nieces or nephews, if you know a child, you have a voice in this, which is literally everyone. Everyone has a voice in this. And, you know, it is interesting. Yeah. And it is interesting, like, because then they bring up more about Corey Feldman and Elijah Wood, how they brought up about Hollywood and kids getting essayed or, you know, molested, and how those stories went under the radar. And they say, why was it? Because they were men, because of this, because they were that,
well,
you know,
yeah.
but
and Hollywood and the media,
I applaud him.
They operate like the mafia. They all protect each other. And unfortunately, most people, even myself, like people that are in the industry, you won't know the depths of how these people are connected and how much money is really being exchanged. And so, but it's like, it's obvious when Balenciaga doesn't, or when Kim Kardashian, et cetera, doesn't step away.
And don't think for 1 second that Balenciaga did this. At least, okay, if it wasn't Balenciaga, the photographer who has been shown, who has a past of photographing children nude, which you put those kids in that photo shoot in danger, but let's, you know, that's another stream. With somebody that's already done, you know, CP.
Did you see like Marc Jacobs was liking all his bunch of the photos?
Oh yeah, all of them. But not even that. Like, you know, the fact that they're going to sit there and they deliberately did this shit, folks. They deliberately did it and thought they could get away with it. And then people started actually, the internet sleuths started going through and being like, wait a minute, this lawsuit and this and this and this, they thought they were that powerful, just like Twitter. They thought they could get away with it. And people are getting a lot smarter. You know, you don't have to have a high IQ to start looking and seeing text and what's this case? Oh, it has to deal with CP. What the hell is this about? People are waking up, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, on that mic note, that mic drop note, we do need to wrap things up. I've got to bounce here. I don't know how to recover from that anyways. Balenciaga bad.
It's totally worth it. What he said. He's perfect.
Yeah. Balenciaga bad. Twitter, we'll have to see how that works out. Hopefully within the next 24 hours, we'll have something new and exciting to talk about. Farron, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for giving us your insight. Ari, especially thank you for picking this up at even a more last moment than Farron did.
Thanks.
Great to have you here.
Ariana Grande, just for you.
Yeah, for this is
with a round brush.
Well, at least I got the Ariadna part right. I got the Ariadna Grande.
Ariadna.
And on that, thanks to all you people out there who are watching this, the chat, you're awesome. All of the mods, you guys are completely great. We got a very moddy Christmas coming up starting next week, where we're going to be meeting our mods and all sorts of stuff like that. Oh. And everybody go to Fair and Balanced.
Oh, one, a good idea.
Yeah, and go to Fair and Balanced and subscribe to her, and go to Ari's site, Influences, on YouTube. And she's rampant on Twitter, doing all kinds of fun stuff. Make sure you subscribe to everything and like everything they've ever done, and hit my like on the way out.
And also, if you don't subscribe to anybody on this, at least subscribe to Ari. She's going up against the New York. She's going up against the New York Times. It's literally a David and Goliath moment.
I basically literally roll Taylor Lorenz for a living.
Yes, and she is going to win this. So if anything, at least show her support, because
absolutely,
it's truly going up against these mainstream media assholes. And I pray that she wins this.
And as I've told you before, Ari, David won that fight against Goliath.
He did.
Legendary Racing ends it. You're reading like 20 drink, Jeff. How sober are you? I am extremely sober. It's just punctuation helps. And on that note, we'll see you all tomorrow for Maritime Monday. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about yet, but we'll think of something. Ladies, take care. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure having you here. And good night, everybody. Or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are.